Hi, my name is Mackenzie Johnson, and the title of my ISM project is Educational Oppression of the English Language Learner Population. The question I chose to research for this project was, why do teachers expect lower achievement from ELL students? I'll firstly start out and explain what ELL or English Language Learner means within the school experience. So in order to be considered ELL, this is a group of students who are served in programs of language assistance, such as English as a second language, high intensity language training, and bilingual education. This does not necessarily mean that these students are immigrants, but rather that they are representing a very diverse group speaking hundreds of languages from all over the world, differing in ethnicity, culture, educational background, and socioeconomic status. On this slide, I'm going to be talking about ELL statistics at the national, state, district, school, and classroom level. Nationally, in 2015, 9.5% or 4.8 million students were considered ELL. In Kentucky, 26,317 or 4% of students were considered ELL. At the district level, here in Jefferson County, 8,710 students were considered ELL, representing around 9% of the state's population. At my school, Camp Taylor Elementary, we have 107 ELL students, or around 24.8% of our population. And at my classroom level, 8 students, or 35%, are considered ELL. It's important to note that over the last 20 years, the ELL population has grown exponentially, especially in the southern region of the United States. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, while 9.5% of students are considered ELL in 2015, it is estimated that by 2025, 25% of students will be English language learners. The southern region of the United States, which includes Kentucky, is projected to follow this growth trend, and it is estimated that over half, or 50.5%, of the nation's population growth from 2016 to 2026 is expected to be in the 16 SREB, or Southern Region states, with an increase of nearly 15 million ELL students. While these rapid growth trends are expected, according to the National Education Association, 15% of learners still are receiving no additional academic services within their school experience besides regular core content instruction. 33% of students are receiving academic services at fewer than 10 hours weekly, and only 8% of ELL students are receiving extensive instruction designed to meet their learning needs, including 10 plus hours per week. So it's definitely important to look at those statistics when noting these increases, because it kind of falls into line with some of the issues you'll see in that ELL students face, which I'll talk about a little bit later. After giving some background information about the statistics pertaining to ELL students, I thought it was important to note the policy and practices that go into ELL instruction. So Lau versus Nichols was a case argued before the U.S. Supreme Court in January 1974, which determined that educational equality is not necessarily the same for all students, but rather providing all students with the same facilities and curriculum does not ensure equal treatment, because non-English speaking students are effectively foreclosed from this instruction. So because I have so many ELL students in my classroom, I've kind of noted that there are many policies that go into practice that kind of create these gaps for ELL students. Beyond Lau versus Nichols, there are many other policies that go into place that affect the ELL population. Firstly, there was the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1967, which was the first time ELL educational reform was ever really discussed. This put into place standards and held states and school districts more accountable for their education of ELL students of English language skills. In 2002, the No Child Left Behind Act continued to provide support for bilingual and ESL educational programs. The support required ELL students to be taking yearly assessments of English language skills after 1 year in the United States, which many people have found that these newcomers to the United States are really not linguistically prepared to partake in these assessments and therefore are not showing that growth. In 2015, President Barack Obama passed the Every Student Succeeds Act, which continued to impact the ELL population. This act kind of broke away from the No Child Left Behind Act because it treated English language acquisition and accountability at and required all schools to demonstrate that they're improving their English language proficiency for each and every ELL student by no longer requiring federal accountability and requiring that states and school districts work together to come up with ways to promote this growth. While these policies have been put into place to help improve academic growth for ELL students, many practices at the national, state, district, and school level continue to go into place that are affecting our students negatively. Firstly, lack of funding. It has been found that there is definite lack of funding for ELL students and ELL funds. In Kentucky, out of 173 school districts, only 6 are receiving Title III immigrant funds at only $152,268. 69 of the 173 districts receive Title III EL funding, with about 22,750 students receiving this funding. Unprepared educators. It has been found that many students and many educators do not feel prepared to teach the special population. According to the National Education Association, of the 41% of teachers with ELL students in their classroom, only 12.5% have participated in 8 or more hours of professional development for ELL populations. I'll speak for myself and say that I fall into this statistic. I have not received any professional developments around ELL students, and that definitely has affected me within my own classroom. Finally, cultural and linguistic isolation. According to one study, 70% of the K through 5 ELL students in the United States are only enrolled in 10% of the nation's elementary schools. This segregation by language and ethnicity and socioeconomic status isolates our ELL students because they're concentrated into only a few schools, being tracked into ELL or ESL programs that only happen at a select number of schools. This definitely promotes inequality and it denies access to this special population. After identifying the policies and practices that go into affecting our ELL students, it's important to identify types of reform. So firstly, increasing teacher preparedness. As I stated before, many teachers do not feel prepared to teach this population. According to one report released by the U.S. Department of Education, only 27% of teachers feel very well prepared to teach students with limited English proficiency. I definitely fell into that category. So reform starts at the classroom level, and it should be important that teachers are required to receive professional development opportunities for teaching this population. Secondly, teachers need to have that growth mindset. Robert Merton's self-fulfilling prophecy notes that performance is based on expectation. As a classroom teacher, I need to make sure that I'm having a growth mindset because my students are able to do what I expected them. So if I'm expecting, growth academically and socially, that will happen. Beyond this growth mindset, we shouldn't just define our students' success on that one assessment, but rather many different types of assessment, whether they be verbal or social or even written. Thirdly, our curriculum needs to follow the stages of second language acquisition, which is starting, emerging, developing, expanding, and bridging. Teachers need to use this gradual release of responsibility over time within their curriculum instruction to change the instruction from being teacher led to independent student led. Finally, it's important to have very language rich instruction. Within classroom experience, it's so important that ELL learners are having increased exposure to print and language because this will help them as they move to this independent stage of reading and writing. Beyond classroom reform, it's important that we are reaching out to our parents and having them advocate for their students' schooling and literacy development. Schools that successfully help ELL parents navigate the challenges offer two-way communication and guidance for their parents and their families. Students and schools should have a plan in which logistical needs are met, volunteerism is promoted, technology is used, parent choice is advocated, and positive communication occurs. For years, low expectations of English language learners have persisted at all educational levels. However, it's so important that we are changing and reforming education to see the academic and social success of each and every diverse learner.